Okay, well, thank you for joining us for Vinland Saga. We are going to be talking about book 11. There you go. Yours is better. As well as the first half of book 12. So we will be finishing up this arc. Our last discussion, our last discussion for book 10 was on Philip's channel. That will be linked in the description of this video for you to catch up if you want to. But getting straight into it, Philip, we started off right away with zooming in on the war, on the individual, like we discussed in the last video.
Yeah.
This scene was really powerful to me when they were talking about, the afterlife and don't you want your final battle? And this man with the arrow in his back responds, yep, you've got it. Responds, is it just me, or does that just the life we've already led? It never ends. If the world's always going to stay the same, you'd eventually get tired of it. So it's this kind of reckoning of this life we've been fighting for is maybe not as glorious as we thought.
Yep, absolutely. And that is something that Yukimura returns to later in the book with a warrior who is expecting to go to Valhalla, and he's got arrows and I think a big dagger in him and all kinds of wounds, and he isn't quite he doesn't get what he quite expects, does he?
Yeah, one of the greatest scenes in the manga, so I definitely want to put a spotlight on it when we get to that point. Because it was a really, really powerful representation of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
What are the consequences of a life of violence? And it also tells you, I think, a lot about how we can become obsessed with a certain goal, like getting to Valhalla and being one of the Einherjar and all of that. And what we might want to pay attention to what we're sacrificing in the meantime,
Absolutely. Which, again, well, how far away is it? Maybe we'll just hop over to that.
Oh, that scene? Yeah, that's actually quite a bit further in this book, but it is in this book.
Okay. Since we're talking about it, I don't want to cut this short. We'll just lean into what we're talking about because it is a really, really powerful scene. But it really shows how unfulfilling, he's dedicated his life. He's missed out on his life in a lot of ways for this ultimate goal, only to then essentially plead with his brethren, don't end this way. This is not what we thought it was.
Right. That's right. And it's interesting too, because these are the same ideals that Thorkel and to a large degree Garm, things that motivate them, that they believe in down to their very bones. And so you have these minor characters in here showing us a bigger truth, which is the shallowness of sacrificing what's valuable in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I found it. It's on 227 is where it begins.
Okay.
Yeah, you see him just absolutely brutalized, and he says, "Nobody's coming. Why?
Yeah.
I fought like hell. No. Oh no, my ears. I'm losing the sound. I can't see. I can't hear. I can't move. You've got it. I feel nothing, not even pain. Hey, this isn't what's supposed to happen." And then he carries on. What happens to everyone else when they die? Is it just like this the whole time? This isn't fair. What have I been fighting for? It's so cold and sleepy. My mind is vanishing away. I'm scared. This is frightening. And then he says, "Boss, friends, don't die. There is no Valhalla. It's all a lie."
Yep.
What a powerful scene. What a terrible scene. But really just digging into there is no glory in war. What we're fighting for, what we're dedicating our lives to, what we hoped to find at the end of this battlefield is not what was truly there.
That's right. Yep.
Such a powerful scene.
Yep. And there are certain people like Spunky here.
Spunky.
Spunky. He gets the best nicknames.
Oh, I love him.
You're worried for him too, because he's also trying to live up to that.
He is. But we also see him. Yes, he is. That's his goal. That's what he wants. But then we see what I think of as his true nature that is kind of in conflict with that. You know, he should stay and fight, but instead he chooses to trudge through the water to go find them, to find Gerded and to help her. And I think his true nature is for the individual, which is what his companions see in him. And it's that conflict of what my father expects of me, the role that's expected of me, versus who he really is.
Yep. And that's something that Yukimura is really good at, is giving us these characters who have these inner conflicts. Another great example is Hild, who insists, oh no, I'm only doing this so I can keep an eye on Thorfinn, right? He thinks she doth protest too much.
Oh yeah, there's much more to it than that, but that is her front.
Right.
Absolutely. So we have Thorfinn climbing, and Hild, of course, climbing through the well, and the servant girl does give them a rope up.
Which is Nanna, which is the wife of Baldar in Norse mythology.
Sure. Okay. So she helps them up, and then Siggy comes behind.
Yes.
And then
more of the comedy we get in this.
More of the comedy, yeah. Behind him come his merry men.
Yep. And that's more of the comedy that I actually had to laugh at a little bit there. Because I like these four goofy fellas who seem to understand Sigurd's goodness, which he doesn't want to understand because he mistakes it for weakness.
Agreed.
As a result of imbibing the ideals of masculinity that he gets from his father and from the society around him, really.
Yeah, and from his heroes that he looks up to, which I said that he was coming in here for Gerded, which is one half of it, and then there's the other half of himself, which is this mission that's been given to him. And we get to see in him as well the brutality of this. We had the widespread of the war, but then we get to see the bloodshed and the fighting that's happening within the walls as well through Siggy's perspective.
Yep. And there's something, kind of comedic about the way in which these guys bumble it. They're trying to be heroes, or at least Sigurd is, and others are there out of loyalty to him.
Oh yeah, it's all about him for them.
And it's just so comedic, though, the way they bumble through all that.
Absolutely. And he views them more as a burden. He's like, go away. This is not like which ultimately they end up being the best thing that could have happened to him.
Yes.
And then we've got Garm scaling a wall by just running really fast.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty agile, I have to give it.
He's amazing. Yeah, and that's the thing with Garm is I have my qualms with him as a character. But he's so much fun. I enjoy his scenes.
So we mentioned the pivotal role that his friends play. This is maybe one of the most important scenes in the entire arc. Is this one here, where we actually do learn his name toward the end of this book. He's given.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, if you blink, you'll miss it. But
okay,
end
so
of the book,
he just calls him Fatty the whole time.
I
don't care to repeat.
Yeah, which is cruel, and that's Sigurd.
That's Siggy.
Still trying to be the tough guy. But what he says here, and that's the pivotal thing, is what is it that you really want, Siggy? Do what your heart says you should do. And then I love his look there when he's in the barrel. Of course, it's comedic because they're hiding in barrels.
Yeah.
And he gives him this look like, what? I can do that? And the wheels are turning, I think of it there. And he's
absolutely. Yeah. That's really the beginnings of him finally embracing what I consider to be his more true self and making that change.
Yes. So that's a beautiful moment, I think, in his character. In a way, Sigurd is kind of takes a little bit more central role in here and in the next half, I guess, to finish out this arc. And it's something that Yukimura has continuously come back to again and again, is you have these fathers and these sons, and the sons trying to live up to their fathers. Some of the fathers are bad in terms of their what they're modeling, which I think Halfdan, you can safely say, is not the best father. or he's paralleled in some ways in the previous arc by, and I'm forgetting the name, the master on the farm.
Oh, right. Is it Spherical that you're thinking of?
That's the grandfather.
Yeah.
His
Okay.
son, yeah.
Kettle.
Kettle, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
So Kettle and his son. You have, of course, Thorfinn trying to live up to his father's ideals and his surrogate father as well. And it's over and over again, done so well. And obviously it's a central concern of Vinland Saga.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. And you mentioned earlier that Thorfinn is a little bit slow on the uptake for Girded and her feelings. We get to see a little bit more of that. She's finally like, yeah. She's finally realizing how strong her feelings for him are.
Yeah.
And he just does not get it.
No, he's pretty clueless.
Yeah, he is.
She has that moment of, oh, you came for me. It's like, oh, and it's like, for her, I think it's a bit of a revelation in that moment too.
Oh, absolutely. I do agree. I very much agree. Which then leads into Floki.
Yes, that's a very important scene here. This conversation. So much going on here.
Thorfinn really gets a moment of truly being consumed by that rage that he's been pushing down and fighting back against, this entire second half of the arc. And we get to have that conflict between them where Thorfinn stands over him with a sword in hand and could take his life, but Baldar does what Einar did for Thorfinn.
Exactly what I was thinking too. Yeah,
what a powerful scene. And this time it's not, I know he has changed. I know he's a better man. I know right. And for Einar, it was, he isn't the same man. He doesn't deserve this fate anymore. Whereas with Baldar, it was, he absolutely deserves this, but he's all I've got,
Yeah. And he blames himself. He says, oh, my grandfather did all these horrible things, but he did them for me and it's my fault,
Which is absolutely not true.
It is not.
It is not his fault, but he takes it on himself, which I think is a very childlike reaction to that situation. He knows that Floki's motivation, I think Floki's motivation is very selfish, but he thinks that Floki's motivation is for him, so that it must be his fault.
I agree. I think you're right that Floki's doing it more for himself and a conception of his grandson than the actual grandson. Right? He has this idea for his grandson. He wants him to be this thing, and he's a grandfather, but it's a father-son type thing where
absolutely.
Parental figure has this thing they want their kid to be, and they push them, and they push them into being this thing, no matter what cost. And often it's to the detriment of the child.
Absolutely. And we see that internal struggle in the child here, which Thorfinn does ultimately choose to break his sword. I'm curious, do you think that if Baldar hadn't done that, do you think that Thorfinn would have finished Floki there?
It's impossible to say, but I think it could have gone the other way. Yeah.
I do too. Yeah. I do too. I think he was so consumed in the moment that he was prepared to end his own life as well, because he's aware that Hild is in the room, but he was prepared to commit the rest of his life to this one single moment. And Baldar kind of reminded him of what he's ultimately truly fighting for.
Yep. And you're so right. Just to add to the tension of that scene, you have Hild, whose crossbow is trained on Thorfinn. So it's just all this stuff going on. There's the tension between Thorfinn and Floki. And then, of course, Baldr interposes himself. And then you have Hild with her crossbow ready to, end Thorfinn's life if he does the wrong thing. And, of course, you have Gudrid who's watching and who just realized how much she loves Thorfinn. All of that happening at once.
Oh, yeah. It's a very important scene. It's a very powerful scene. And we end up tying Floki up and leaving. Which is certainly a more merciful choice. And they plan on taking Baldar with them to give him a better future and a better option at life.
That's what he wants. That is what he wants. It's something that was instilled in him by Gudrid, who offered the opportunity.
And we see Floki, when he's tied up and when the soldiers come in, he's far more concerned about Baldar than anything else. Yep. So his affection for his grandson is obviously very genuine. But yeah, he says, ignore me. I don't need tending. Hurry. Baldar. We must find Baldar.
Yeah. I love this panel here. This panel where they've left Floki behind and they're out there, and the idea is floated about taking Baldar with them. And he says, please take me with you. Take me somewhere that's not here. And I love what he does here, because up here, I don't know if people can see that, but there are stars. So the view gives you this upward kind of movement, and you see the stars out there as if, it's a dream of something far away, right? Which is exactly what Baldar in this moment wants. It's what's motivating Thorfinn. Something that's both literally and metaphorically far away. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really reminds me of the scene when Thorfinn was a child and he asked his father, what if we want to escape here? And it harkens back to that childlike, where I am and the fate that's been handed to me is not the fate that I want.
Yep, absolutely. And then we get some good comedy in here too.
I love Yukimura's fascination with barrels.
Yeah, he likes barrels.
He likes barrels. He likes people hiding in barrels, running in barrels. It's a blast.
Yep, but Sigurd and his good buddy there running for their lives with arrows all over the barrels and the whole mob chasing them. And, it's a pretty funny scene. And he's brought all these things in there together. So you've got Sigurd and his friend running around, and you've got Garm in there looking for his fight, and you've got Thorfinn and the others trying to escape, and a big, huge battle going on at the same time.
Oh, yeah, it's chaos. It's chaos. And that's really what we were talking about, is it's not just the fact that there's more action in this, but it's the way Yukimura makes so many things happening at once that with each page turn, you're reminded of more and more chaos.
Yep, absolutely.
Which comes to Thorfinn threatening Baldar to get them out of there, which of course he's never going to harm him, but it's his front, it's his way of getting himself and his companions and Baldar himself as well out of there safely.
Yeah, that standoff really intense, and it's where everything comes together. Sigurd joins in, and there's a moment where Thorfinn saves Sigurd from from Garm. Yeah, who's well, so everything is in place here, right? At that moment. I think that's a key moment for Sigurd as well, when Thorfinn saves him. Keeps relating to this guy as an enemy, but he can't quite he's at several points in the story, he's like, is he your friend or something? He's, no, he's not my friend. He's my, and he can't really quite figure out what he is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it began with a cat and mouse chase, where he did a poor job at being the cat. But yeah, they've met several times. He clearly cares about Girded as well. He's saved their lives, and there's just a lot more going on all of a sudden between them.
Another great comedic moment is when Gudrid has to take over, because in succession, several people have had to pretend to take Baldar hostage.
Right. And I love the speech bubbles over the weapon.
Over the ladle.
Yeah, and then it switches to see it.
A ladle, yeah. These dire threats. One move and I'll do him in, and she's got a ladle there.
Yes, it was a very clever. And then Siggy actually is the one that steps in to make sure that she isn't attacked, which was his first, I think, truly selfless, putting himself out there to protect these people that he's been chasing.
Yep. And he's trying to play the hero, but he's doing it in a way that's a bit more selfless. That is, And the interaction between him in that moment and Gudrid is pretty powerful too, because she too, there's a real human connection between them. She doesn't hate him. She says, okay, I don't want you to die. Okay, fine. I'll go to Iceland. If you just please don't do this.
Right. And we've got him badly wounded, trying to hold the fort, trying to, he says, take Girded and go first. I'll hold out here. So this is his final stand, this is it. He's going to die here, and he wants his father to know it.
Yeah.
And then Girded, she wants him to be able to make it through as well, along with them.
Yep. And it's ultimately Hild who knocks him out, and then his friend carries him away along with Gudrid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. His friend does the first hit.
Yeah. It's total fail. Yeah.
Yeah. And then and then Hild takes care of that, and then they go out, and then unfortunately that leaves Baldar to be taken in again by the people that he was trying to flee.
Yep. And also poor Thorfinn dealing with Garm. Yep. And Garm insisting once again, it's either I die or you die. Those are your only choices.
Exactly. Like, we don't have a choice in this. This is the life. This is what I'm forcing on you. Which we then cut to the scene that we've already talked about with the warrior dying.
He ultimately dies with a tear, right? As he's thinking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then contrast that with Thorkel.
Who has no
Thorkel
idea.
in the middle of it. Yeah, taking those lives, and he's just like, oh man, this is the best day of my life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Doing his thing, what he does best, I suppose.
Right. And one of the scenes I think that was also really impactful for Baldar is when he finally admits that he wants everyone to die. I want this band to burn to ashes. It's all I've ever really wanted. Which, my real dream might come true tonight. I might finally be free. Really, there's so much been put on him. There's so much asked of him that he just wants it all wiped out. Which harkens back to what you were talking about, the burden on the child.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's so interesting, the parallels between him and Thorfinn, and how Thorfinn too is simultaneously dealing with Garm and gets clever and takes a note from whose page? We go all the way back to Askeladd.
Yeah, I will protect my own life, not take my opponents, and still win.
Yep. So he's psyching out Garm in the same way, and we get the flashback to doing the same thing to him when he was younger. And then he does the headbutt thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way Yukimura did this because, like, for instance, with this panel, I see it and I'm like, Askeladd, it's Askeladd. And then you turn the page and we get to see the flashback of Askeladd doing it. So he let us see the symbolism and then put it right there immediately after for that payoff.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. The two panels are almost like total parallels there.
Okay, I see. I'm reading digitally, so I didn't realize that they shared an open page. But yeah, they're parallels, and I love that. I love that he gives it to us in that way.
Yeah, it's like the same pose, except you have Garm and Thorfinn, and you have Thorfinn and Askeladd.
Yeah, it's such a powerful scene, which the headbutt ends up launching us into the backstory, which you were referencing earlier. What did you think of that?
I mean, he looks like such a lonely little kid here, doesn't he? Oversized tunic or whatever, and he just doesn't get it. There's, he's an outsider. He's lonely, So that created, I don't know, a little bit of sympathy, I guess. I don't know.
Sure. Well, and it also lets us see that even as a child, he was very different. He was this way of just like this powerful, violent excitement for battle.
Right. And a monster. They call him a demon,
Yeah, little demon. And he just laughs that off. He thinks that's funny.
Yeah.
I am curious if in the next arc we'll get more from him. I mean, I think we will. And if we'll kind of build on that flashback and add a little bit more to his perspective of it.
Yeah. I think the most curious moment, too, is after Thorfinn has beaten him and chucked his spear. He's like, oh, you beat me, darn it, and everything else. And he says, Thorfinn says, well, next time we meet, I hope we can be friends. And he comes out with, we are
friends.
Yeah.
This is what friendship is to him.
Yeah.
I want to kill my friends, or I want my friends to kill me. Like, this is how we play, which is exactly how it was in his flashback of like, this was a game to him.
Yeah, he's still a little kid or somehow, I guess. Yeah. And poor Thorfinn is like, what is the deal with him?
Yeah, this is not Thorfinn's idea of friendship.
No, not the normal, I guess, idea there.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone else reveling in his fun, right?
Yeah,
And it's an opponent that he can really have a good time with, which is, I thought that was a little cheesy, bringing in
oh yeah,
Ymir the giant, having this giant suddenly out of nowhere show up. But okay, fine. And he does give you a little note at the end that the name Ymir is a very important one in Norse mythology too.
Oh, okay.
This primordial giant out of which the gods actually make the worlds. So he's this guy's a lot smaller than that giant would have been, but you know,
right. Yeah, so we had a lot of discussion over this particular section whenever I was reading it for the first time.
Yeah.
Just because this giant who, you know, we have, let's see if I can find it. We have perspective of the room previously, right? Like we had it, and he's not there. I mean, and then he just,
it's a pretty large object, right?
It's a really large object and the room's not large. Right. And then, you know, and then here he is. And it's very much like he wasn't established. We just fought a war. We just had a giant epic battle. He didn't participate. He didn't get brought up, you know? And it's just, he just appears in the scene because we need to satisfy Thorkel's bloodlust. And it feels a little bit, it doesn't feel quite natural to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that seamless.
No. No.
I think Yukimura was just leaning on humor there.
Sure.
More than logical storytelling. So, which is fine. A moment I did find much more interesting and compelling was, where Baldar just about sacrifices himself, thinking this is the only way I can end all this.
Oh, man. It's truly tragic. Baldar is such a tragic character.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is because of his grandfather, of course.
Absolutely, 100% it is. Yeah. It's because of what's been put on him and because he's chained. He doesn't get to choose his future. I really, really love this scene between the two soldiers where they're talking, yeah. You
know, like, yeah, I know you're on that side. And they're like, yeah, but that's over.
Who cares?
Right?
Yeah, doesn't matter. I know that. Nice to meet you. Oh, man. It's a great cap on all this zooming in on these nameless soldiers that he's done that has been very tragic. And then we get to see the survivors who have also learned the same lesson and who are moving on from this ideology as well.
Yep. And ultimately, it's up to Thorfinn, who is forced into this leadership role to come up with this resolution, which is... Okay, order number 3, with some help from Thor. Time to disband the Jomsvikings.
Right, exactly. I'm just going to real quick point out this little bit of humor before.
Oh, yeah. Poor Gudrid, yeah.
She didn't know what to do with herself. But yes, Thorfinn made a deal with Thorkel that he would assist him in disbanding the Jomsvikings. And that's kind of what I was referring to before, where we see the parallels of Thorfinn and Canute as well, where Canute wants to eliminate the wolves. I'm about to cough.
Yep. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that is exactly right, though. Yeah, that is a parallel. Oh, dear.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I have a cold. He wants to eliminate the wolves, and then Thorfinn, who has a different goal, or rather a different way of going about it.
Yep.
Wants to complete the same goal. You talk now.
Sure. Yes, I'll try to take over. You're absolutely heroic in trying to stick with this, but I don't know if you want to say anything more on that one, but I think you did get your point through there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another great heroic moment, though, and it's a point where Gudrid's love really does come out completely, and I love this panel here where she tries to hit Thorkel, and tiny little woman, it's like bop, you know, and he's just looking down, like, you know, he's looking at it, and she's screaming, "Take that, you jerk," you know.
Yes.
Because he's trying to bring Thorfinn back to the violence. She's trying to fight him. He wants to fight him, and then she's basically trying to protect the person that she loves. And even Thorkel may seem kind of one note too, but he's perceptive, and
he's very perceptive. He's very perceptive, and he shows it many times, not just here. Yeah. But I do want to note, I find it interesting that both Garm and Thorkel, when they realized that Thorfinn didn't have a weapon, they both were like, okay, well, here's a weapon. Like, we're gonna fight, and I'm not interested in a disadvantaged fight, so we're gonna do this right. And yeah, you would think Thorkel's bloodlust at this point would be satisfied after this.
He got to wrestle with Ymir the giant. I mean, geez.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he got set on fire. He got to kill a bunch of people. Like, you're good, bro. But yeah, as you said, he's very perceptive, and he realizes, young lady, you love Thorfinn, don't you? And we've got Thorfinn just going, huh?
And then her reaction.
Yeah, that very, very blush covered face. That's right. I love Thorfinn. Got a problem with that? Oh, I love that response.
Yeah. I mean, I love her ferocity, her the fierceness of her love, I should say. It's kind of beautiful, isn't it?
Yes. So Thorkel does decide, to set aside, and this is part of, I think, why we love him so much, is because even though he embodies so much of what the manga speaks against, he's not just a killing machine. He sees that she cares about him. He sees the situation. He's like, you can pay me back later. We'll have this fight another time, which gives us, the reader, the promise that he's not done in the story. And also gives us the relief of being able to see this resolve, which is Thorfinn not knowing what to do with himself and her being horribly embarrassed.
Yes, poor thing. And Sigurd, interestingly, overhearing all of this too. Which
allows us to get a little bit more humanity out of him as well.
Yep. When that picks up in the next book, really, book 12.
Yes.
Which we're going to cover half of, but I love the scene.
Fascinating cover, though.
Yeah. I do
Sorry, go
love
ahead.
The scene where you have Sigurd deliberately provoking Gudrid into going to Thorfinn and confessing her love and asking, do you love me? And this is an act of sacrifice. This is where we see him fully mature.
Absolutely.
Becoming a empathetic person, where he realizes, I have to give her up because she loves this guy, right?
And in giving her up, he's giving up his honor. This is what he left for. This is what he's devoted everything to. And now he has to return home to his father saying, I failed. I don't have my honor intact. So this is a massive sacrifice. This isn't just I'm surrendering my wife. This is I'm surrendering my life, essentially, as I've wanted it to be. And even makes himself out to be a bad guy, the language that he uses to convince her to go put herself out there. He
provokes her, and he obviously is doing it with the motive of helping her, but he does it
100%.
Makes it seem like he's being a jerk. Yeah.
Right.
God forbid he should seem like a nice guy, right?
Right.
He I think his friend on the head because he blames him. You're the one that made me do this,
And he is. And that's wonderful that he was.
Yeah. And then you get this wonderful scene here. And he's the one embarrassed now, too. And she's got these swirls of embarrassment all around.
Yep. And follow that up with yet another one of those where they just stare at each other. They do not know how to talk this one out.
Yep. Which is a great transition because then it returns to Sigurd returning to Iceland, which is what most of this chunk of story is essentially Sigurd's thread finishing up, isn't it?
Yes, it absolutely is. First, we need to talk about him Siggy returning home and confronting his father.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. And I love how that starts with him looking out over the ocean. And we know why he's doing it. He's looking for his son. He's never going to admit that. And his wife knows.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, to gaze out upon the sea, you truly do love. Here, I do not love it, he says. I have nothing better to do, right? And the real reason, of course, is he wants his son back.
Yep. And whenever they see the boat coming on the east, and then you've got that panel of him disappearing, and she's like, husband? And it's because he's already on his way. And just like Siggy, he wants to present like, no, I'm not doing it for you. I don't care. I have this, this person that I want to look like. But no, he really does care.
Yeah, you have to assume that Halfdan as well had a very stern father. And that he's just doing the same thing that was done to him. You know, the idea that you can't show love because that's weakness, right? And you got Sigurd's failure and his desire to leave.
Yeah, I wish to be free from you.
Father's reaction there is, of course, you know, calls him a fool, keeps calling him an idiot, a fool. You know? And probably what he's doing is he's projecting his own father talking to him. You know,
yeah, it could be that. And I also see it a little bit of he just wants his son home and he doesn't know how to communicate that. So he's going to try to force him home by saying like, no, why would I ever let you do that? And he should be opening his arms.
And after that, we do get the flashback of
the flashback.
Learning or trying to be a fighter with Hallgerd, his actual wife.
His first wife
I mean, she would have been relegated to the status of second wife, I guess, because they wanted Gudrid's connection to Leif Erikson because they wanted to claim territory in Vinland, right? That was the motive, right? They wanted that wealth. So Gudrid was going to take priority over Hallgerd, which, of course, you know, she was kind of a jerk, but she also she has a
she actually cares about him.
Yeah, she cares about him, and she doesn't want to be second wife, right? She doesn't want to have to share her husband. And you get this; they've known each other. She even has that goofy curly hair when she was a kid, and she's a tough one. And she understands that Sigurd is not a cruel person, right? That he doesn't want to hurt people, right?
Yeah. She's a little bit terrifying. I'm not sure I would want her to be mad at me, but yeah, she sees through a lot of that as well. And as you said, she knows his true nature. She truly does care about him. And you've got her in his face saying, don't ever do that. Don't ever speak about that woman. And she's just like, I'm your wife. All right, let's just get that real clear. Which he was just trying to fulfill his duty. But yeah,
I love it when an author can take a character that is presented in a way that I don't like them at all, because I didn't like Hallgerd at all, because she was mean to Gudrid in the earlier book. But here I kind of like her. You know, I like the fact that she is sticking up for herself, that she is ultimately right, and she's the only person who understands Sigurd. And I like her here. You know, it's cool when an author can do that, change your mind about a character that way.
I agree. And she's someone that we barely get any page time with yet. He does such a good job of putting such an imposing personality on her.
Yeah.
So Siggy and Dad, Halfdan, have to duke it out.
Showdown. Yeah, with chains, right?
Right. They need to express their feelings as men do through fighting.
With chains. But it's a cool moment because, of course, Sigurd defeats his father, which is a moment of, I think a lot of us, when we have a moment, like for me, it was ping pong. I played ping pong with my dad, and he was a ping pong champion, and he beat me all the time. And finally, when I was able to beat him, it felt I felt a little bit guilty and weird, actually.
Oh, that's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, this is their rivalry. And at the end of it all, when Sigurd wins, I love this panel where his father, beaten, is actually smiling. There's this smile on, not showing any teeth, but there's a smile there. And his reaction after the mother says, oh, he's so much stronger now. And she's kind of smiling. She gets it. That she's a very wise woman. All along. And his response is internal. Of course he is. He's my son.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I do wonder if that fight was in some way Halfdan trying to help Siggy be able to leave. Yeah, get his honor back, prove that his worth, so that he could leave with his head held high.
Yeah.
I also love, the perceptiveness of Mom. You can tell that she loves her daughter-in-law, that she's like, I know your worth, and she's happy for them and where they're going with his merry men.
Yeah. And then you get that part, which you were talking about earlier, is when the return of Thorfinn to Iceland, and quite a bit of time has passed, a couple of years, I believe.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And there's Gudrid, and there's the little guy who's bit bigger now.
Oh yeah, he's walking now.
Yeah, and he's walking. He's a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Ylva kind of embarrasses herself with her reaction.
Well, I mean, so that, man, I love her. She, you know, she found out how many 2 years ago that Thorfinn that he stole the wife of Halfdan's son. Like, that's a big deal. We're gonna have war. And so all this time, she's just been waiting. She's just been waiting for them to return, and yeah, it ends up being a much happier return where Halfdan actually throws them a wedding.
Yeah. Okay.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah. I did not see that coming. You know, when we met Halfdan way back in the first arc, I thought, oh, this guy is irredeemable, you know. But through his son's redemption, I think he gets a little redemption too, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just the return of the family. And it's so wonderful to see how they've prospered.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a bit surprised, but I'm totally fine. We don't get any of the, you know, Miklagard. They obviously have had adventures. They've grown. They've bonded. Basically, we were left hanging, essentially, when it came to what's going to happen between Thorfinn and Gudrid and their husband and wife now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's fine to skip them getting together and all that. Yeah. Especially, I do love whenever whenever Ylva asks them about the child and he says, well, I'm his father and that's his mother. Oh, so beautiful.
It's a good scene. It's a touching scene.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. But anyway, I think it's fine that we skipped them getting together. I do take a little bit of issue with us skipping Greece. Like that was...
Yeah. I mean,
that was the goal. That was what we were doing in the beginning. And then it's like, well, let's not talk about that. It'll be fine.
Right. I think ultimately Yukimura wants to get to Vinland.
Right. I think you're right. And we already did so much, and which we've discussed before, that this story is really about the themes more than it is about anything else.
Yeah.
And we accomplished what he wanted to accomplish theme-wise. And so he was just ready to move on, I think, which I really want to get to Vinland too. Yeah. So fair enough.
And we all
wish we had come up with a different initiator for the plot rather than like saying, hey guys, this is what we're going to do, but not even kind of. And it's just like, oh man, you could subvert expectations, but we could have just come up with a different reason to get us to where we were going for the plot.
But he wants to get to Vinland, both literally and metaphorically, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And he is this final arc. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, just to say, it's such a beautiful moment when we get there, too.
I agree. Definitely.
The one person still kind of sitting as a little bit of an outsider there.
Hild. Yeah, I'm excited to see what else we do with her, because I think, you know, this arc for her was what Thorfinn's for the first arc was for him. Yeah. Though it was very different, but you know, he got a lot more. And so I'm looking forward to see what we're going to do with her in the fourth arc, which the fourth arc is the final arc. We're going to wrap up the series here.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. So we have, for those watching, we have, our next discussion is going to be for the second half of Volume 12, as well as all of Volume 13, and we will read that and discuss it when Volume 13 is published later in December, hopefully. So yeah, that'll be on Philip's channel, so make sure that you're subscribed to Philip and looking out for that. I'll make a community post whenever that time comes too. But then we're gonna be out of material.
Wow.
I know.
What are we going to do next, Murphy?
Oh, right. We should say that, shouldn't we?
Do we want to make an announcement?
Yeah. Let's do it. So, Philip and I, we've had so much fun discussing this. We've loved these more in-depth discussions. So we are going to continue on after we finish this next discussion for Vinland Saga with, do you want to say it?
Vagabond.
Which is another seinen manga. It's another one targeted towards older men. It'll have those heavier themes. I think there will be a lot to discuss. So we're really, really excited for that.
Yeah, there were so many great ones to choose from, and I'm sure eventually I'll get to some others. But I'm so excited to be reading Vagabond with you next year. That's going to be
I agree. I agree. So anybody that's interested in reading it with us, we're going to have a discussion. I think once a week, we'll do one on my channel, then the following week on yours.
Yeah.
So we can have a consistent schedule, and it'll be like a little book club for us.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I'm super excited. But yeah, what did you think of the final thoughts on the third arc?
I loved where it ended. Ultimately, I was a bit surprised that we didn't go to Greece. We didn't see, Miklagard and all of that. But I think that Yukimura did a good job of showing how they've aged and giving us a slightly more mature characters who are ready for the next chapter. So I do like where we left off. I think the character development is fantastic. And that, I think, is one of the most, if not the most important thing here in this kind of storytelling. So I love where our characters are. I love this found family that you have various members with Thorfinn and Gudrid, and you have Einar and Hild and Leif, I hope, is going to be with them. And, all these people who've come together to form a family, and let's see where they can get. There are obstacles, obviously. There are going to be some obstacles to what they want to achieve. And that's the world we're in. So I'll be curious to see where Yukimura takes it.
Yes, I am too, especially knowing that he's planning on finishing it up in the next arc, which I think is good. I think that he's explored Thorfinn from so many different angles. It feels right to be coming to the conclusion soon for his story, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I'm curious, Philip, if I can put you on the spot, how you would rank these 3 arcs that we've read so far as for favorite to least favorite.
Oh gosh, that is really tough.
I know.
I did love the first arc, so I don't want to give the wrong impression, but I probably would put it, and I immediately fell in love with Vinland Saga. So
yes,
I don't want,
you did.
If I'm calling it number 3, please don't think I don't like it, but that probably would be third for me. And maybe this one, third arc, I would rank second. And I loved the it's sometimes called the slave arc, and sometimes it's called the farmland arc. I think that's actually my favorite because of the thematic work that Kimura does. And I think it's the arc that ties together these 3. I feel like he really delved into stuff that he really was on his mind in that second arc. And so much of what happens in that arc reverberates, in a strange way, it reverberates back to the first arc, but it also reverberates very much in the third arc. So a lot of the heart of what I feel Yukimura is trying to do in terms of what he's exploring, the idea of pacifism, the consequences of a world that's full of oppression and pain and suffering, and how to deal with that. I think some of the most beautiful moments are in that second arc. So I'll call that number 1 for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
How would you rank them?
So for me as well, I've loved all 3 of these arcs. So any ranking is a good ranking. But yeah, mine's similar to yours. Farmland/Slave is also my favorite arc, the second arc. I agree with everything that you said. I think the heart of what Yukimura is doing is there. And he did so many great things in that arc. And really just the whole thing with the parallels between Thorfinn and the man who appears, the husband of Arnheid.
Oh yes. Oh gosh.
Like
Arnheid's husband.
Yeah, it's okay. Everybody will know who I'm talking about. That parallel just it struck me so strongly. So it's a favorite of mine. And then arc 1 will be my number 2, and then the third arc is at the bottom for me. But that bottom is still very high. It's still a lot of love.
And of course, I think if you're just going to talk about, it might sound strange because I put arc 1 at number 3, but favorite character might be Askeladd.
Askeladd's a phenomenal character.
He's an incredible character, and really is the foundation for a lot of what comes too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Thorfinn for me, but Askeladd, actually, I think it's Thor's. I think it's Thor's, then Thorfinn, then Askeladd. But all 3 of them are phenomenal characters.
Yeah. Oh, there's some great ones in here. I love Gudrid. She's a lot of fun. And Arnheid is one that continues to haunt me. Hild is, I can't wait to see what he does with her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got a lot of really phenomenal characters. The mother that never got a name that was defending Carly.
Yeah.
She's won a place in my heart for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an amazing scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So these have been a blast, and I'm just thrilled that we're going to keep having them, even in a different series. It's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be a blast. And thank you, Murphy. I want to thank you for this journey that you put me on. This has been tremendous. We do have a little bit more of Vinland Saga to finish when that book 13 comes out, but thank you so much. I'm very grateful for just how wonderful this journey's been.
Yeah, me as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this last arc goes as well. Yeah, so thank you again for joining me, Philip. Again, Philip's channel is linked in the description of this video. We will again have the next discussion for Vinland Saga on Philip's channel, and then in 2023 we will be beginning Vagabond, which we're both really excited about. So we will continue chatting with y'all soon. Thank you for joining us through this journey, and yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye.